Matt Fitch, our Assistant Superintendent for Business, will go over the 26-27 budget as part of the budget hearing. And then after he's done, I know that PTSA has been accustomed to me sharing some highlights about the school district in the year. So after he's done with the budget presentation portion, we will rewind the presentation and I'll do the kind of the updates on some of the highlights from the year, if that's okay with you.
Yes, and then if anybody wanted to stay to hear the rest of the things that we do from a PTSA standpoint, welcome to stay for that. And we don't have a ton of business to do tonight, but we welcome you here.
Thanks. Without further ado, Matt Fitch.
All right, good evening. We'll go through the budget presentation for the budget hearing and start through it right here. Maybe.
Here, do you want to maybe the mouse? There you go. You can use the mouse. Okay.
Thank you.
Clicker used worked last time.
So the first thing we'll discuss is the tax levy. So on this presentation, on this slide here, since the inception of the tax cap back in 2012-13, the district has had to calculate the tax cap. The blue line is what the tax cap has been, and the green line is what the district has gone out to levy for each year. You'll notice that our tax cap has gone down slightly this year, down to 2.73%, and the district is proposing to go out at 2.73%. That would be the lowest in 3 years, and the second lowest in three of the last 5 years. On the property tax side, on the revenue side, you're going to see that increase of 2.73% in the budget of just $1,479,000. There's a slight change in the pilots, and you'll see an increase in state aid. That's an increase of our foundation aid of 1%, which is about $284,000. Plus, as you are probably aware, the state has not adopted their budget yet for this year. They have a late budget. Last year, they also had a late budget. And so as part of that process, if the state ends up applying more state aid to the district from one year to the next, we won't see that in the current budget. We see it in the following budget. So you're seeing some of the increase from last year, and then our expense-based aids are increasing due to increased costs. The other areas that I'll discuss in future slides are the miscellaneous revenue and the interfund transfer to debt service, and overall increase in revenues of just over $4 million. Last year at this time, when we presented, we had a reduction of 15 FTEs. This year we have flat enrollment, so we don't have any much of a reduction of FTEs. We're pretty flat. We have a reduction of 1 elementary teacher. That's due to looking at our class sizes and maximizing the number of students in each class. And then we have an increase of a half-time speech teacher. Currently we contract that out. Creating the half-time speech teacher increases our cost by about $20,000. That speech teacher will mainly be at our parochial schools, and then any additional time would be within our district. One of the drivers of the budget is the BOCES Early College Access Coaster. This is a coaster that the state has developed and allowed us to join this year. And what this does is allows our students to take college credits for free. So the district picks up the expense of the college credits, which is about $25,000. And in exchange, the state makes that aidable. What happens is it's really an accounting piece. Besides the increase in expense for the tuition and a coaster fee, the increase in our budget is $425,000. In turn, BOCES pays us $425,000, so it makes it aidable. So it increases our budget by $425,000, our revenue by $425,000, and on the state aid side, we'll gain about $200,000 in state aid. So you'll see this as a driver of the budget. There's not really an increase in the expense, but due to the accounting side of this, this is how we need to show it. So that's one of the drivers of our budget. Another driver of the budget is, 2 years ago, the community voted to approve the $70 million capital project. After the 2 years of planning, getting state approval, going out to bid, this summer is the first time that we will actually start work on this project, and we'll start spending funds. As we start spending funds, we will, our costs increase within the budget. So the first year of that cost is an increase of about a little over $550,000, and it's offset this year by a debt service transfer, which is how the project has been designed. As our expenses increase from year to year on the debt service for that project, state aid will then offset that. So you'll see the expense increases from one year to the next, The revenue increases by a similar amount, and our local share to the tax levy remains the same. So you can see from those last two lines, an increase of about $1 million in expenses, an increase of about $1.2 million in revenue for those two areas. Three-part budget, this is where we take our hundreds of lines and show them for 3 lines. We have the administration, which is going to be anything you picture with, for administration, anything within our district office, principals, their offices, and you'll see that is increasing by $182,000. Program's gonna be everything you're gonna picture when you picture a classroom or educational setting. Teachers, TAs, teacher aides, desks, chairs, supplies, transportation, those will all be included in the program. That's the largest part of the budget, and you'll see that's increasing by $3.3 million. And then capital, that's gonna be anything with our utilities, our debt service, and our maintenance. And so you can see that increase of $870,000. Overall, the budget for this year in the proposition is $97,837,587, an increase of just over $4.4 million. As part of our budget, we can do a capital outlay project, and what this is a line item in our budget of $100,000. We can spend up to $100,000 if the budget is approved on capital work. And so for the 3rd straight year, the proposal is to include a $100,000 project for the replacement of exterior doors in the elementary school. And what happens is when we spend that funds, the following year, the state aids us for 73.2% of our expenses. So if we spend $100,000 next year, the following year, the state pays for $73,200 in return. So it helps offset the cost of doing some minor upkeep within the district. Overall, for the budget, you'll see the green right here is the appropriations and what will be voted on next Tuesday of $97,837,585. And then on the revenue side, you'll see that close to 60% of our revenue is the tax levy, approximately 40% is state aid, a little bit under that, and then the remaining is some federal miscellaneous and reserves to offset that. Estimated tax bill, so when we present it this time of the year, we don't have current assessed values for next year. We don't have the great numbers for STAR for next year. So when we present a conservatively high tax rate. So what we do is we take the assessed values from the prior year and increase them by 2.73%, increase the tax rate by 2.73% to come up with a new tax rate. So last year when we presented this time, we presented a tax rate of $14.63, and you can see on a $150,000 home, our estimated bill after STAR was $1,677.50. When we actually set the tax rates in August, once we had all of the actual data, you can see the tax rate came in significantly lower at $13.84. You can see STAR also came in lower than what we anticipated, but overall the tax bill was $1,622 for a $150,000 home. This year, our proposal, what we're calculating now conservatively is $14.22 for the tax rate, and so overall increase on a $150,000 home of $69 or $575 per month. Now everybody has a different assessed value, and this is for fully equalized homes, but assuming the $14.22 tax rate and the $442 STAR exemption, you can see the changes for $200,000, $300,000, and $400,000. As I said, when we present at this time of the year, the tax rate that we're projecting is conservatively high. And then when we actually calculate in August, that tends to be significantly lower. So you can see since 22-23, the gray bar is what we've projected as far as the budget presentations. The green bar is what the tax rate has actually come in at from year to year. And when we do these budgets, we're presenting a one-year budget, but what we're doing internally is looking long-term, our multi-year planning. We are now considered what's a hold harmless school, and what that is the state calculates state aid for schools and determines the amount you should be paid. And our calculation for the first time in our history is lower than what they're actually paying us. About 500 school districts of the 700 school districts in the state are now hold harmless. And what the law is for that is that you're guaranteed the prior year's state aid contribution from the state. This year, the governor is proposing a 1% increase on top of that flat amount. What drives that is enrollment and need. Our enrollment has stayed relatively flat, decreasing slightly. The other thing that causes that decrease or that change is the wealth of the community. As our assessments have increased, what the state does is looks at that as a state whole. And it says, hey, Canada, well, your assessments are increasing at a higher rate than the statewide assessed values, and therefore the state looks at us as being wealthier than we used to be compared to the rest of the state, even though we're still considered below average. What that does is the state then, in their calculation, says, well, the amount we're gonna fund you per student decreases. So if you take all of our students, the amount that each student receives for that state aid is actually less per student, and that causes a decrease in the calculation of state aid. So now that we're in this hold harmless, we're guaranteed only the prior year state aid, and anything additional is determined by the governor and the legislature as part of the state negotiations. Obviously, we have the tax cap limits that we've been dealing with since 2012-13, and then health insurance we're really struggling with statewide, nationally, regionally, and especially in our consortium. We're seeing our under 65 plans increasing at or above trend. Trend is 10 to 12% right now. This year, for the second year in a row, we're over 15%. And retiree health insurance, our over 65 plans, we joined a consortium, I believe it was 5 years ago now, gave us amazing rates, about 60% reduction in our Medicare rates 5 years ago. That guarantee was for 3 full years of no increases, and then no larger than a 10% year increase in year 4. And then once that time period had finished, we go back on to our actual loss ratio. Medicare market changed significantly since we got into that consortium. Some of the large companies, United Health, and some of those had come into the market. They have left the market in that time period. And so what's happening is we now need to get up closer to the community rates, and we need to make that jump significantly. So the projections from our insurance carrier are 80% this upcoming year, January 1, 60% the following year, and 40% the following year. Those are all projections. Those will be determined once our insurance carrier gives us those numbers. The first year here in October, we'll start seeing the actual numbers. Electric buses, this is a moving target. This is one that we've been struggling with. And some information as part of the news today is that there's a 5-year potential delay. There's a bill for a 5-year delay on the transition to electric buses, which would be a positive sign for school districts, give us more time to prepare for this technology. And that is considered, our understanding from the news articles today is that that's actually being considered as part of the state budget. So we're hopeful that that happens. But currently the state law is that starting next year in 2027, that we need to start purchasing all electric buses, and by 2035, all buses must be transitioned to electric. We can't have any gas or diesel buses. There is the ability to submit a 2-year waiver coming this July. We can submit that, and we will submit that if the law does not change, and it'll be up to the state to determine if we meet that waiver. If we meet that waiver, it gives us 2 additional years of choosing between diesel and electric buses, but it does not change the final year, the 2035 date. So if you do that waiver for the 2 years, you still need to replace all the buses by 2035. So it increases the amount you have to do over those next 6 years. As we know, the cost of these buses and the infrastructure is significant, and so we've been really holding off on expanding into this until we need to. There's only 3 propositions on the ballot this year. The second proposition is purchase of 10 diesel buses at just over $1.8 million, and we use transportation reserve and fund balance to cover that, so it does not affect the tax rate. Proposition 3, and I saw Jenny come in. She's going to present on the library here in a bit. But Wood Library, great educational partner of ours. We collect the taxes for them and then send the funding to them. So their budget is requesting to increase by $93,359 to $1,120,293. And that covers about 80% of their total budget. The rest is community funded. And you can see down on the bottom their calculations for different levels of assessed values as to what the increase in the taxes would be for those. There's 2 Board of Education seats, and there's 2 people on the ballot, Amy Hall and Amber Valvano. They would both be new members to the board. And then the budget vote is a week from today, from 7 to 9. For everybody here, you know, you're either in the primary elementary gym or at Cheshire Fire Hall. So that concludes the public presentation.
Thank you, Matt. And close your eyes, because I'll do the other part, but I've got to go the other way. Really quick. All right, you didn't see any of that. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. And so that concludes the budget hearing portion of it. And so, like I mentioned, PTSA is accustomed to me kind of doing like just a recap of some highlights from the year. And we do the same with Rotary and Kiwanis as well. Just a few of the groups that we're able to do that with. So some of it you're aware of, because some of the things I'm about to share, they've actually been here to PTSA meetings and shared some of the great work that they're doing. So let me just jump into that. I always like to start when I'm presenting in the community, especially with a did you know fact. There's a lot of history in Canandaigua, and some people just aren't always aware of our history. Well, in this image you see Abraham Lincoln, but behind him is Stephen A. Douglas. He actually debated Abraham Lincoln to be the president in 1860. Stephen A. Douglas was known as the Little Giant. He is a graduate of Canandaigua Academy, and he's in our Graduates of Distinction program. And so there's a lot of literature and history around him, but he is part of our Canandaigua history. I'd like to share that. And it's fun to share at Rotary and things like that. I actually was sharing at Rotary this year, and I could see some lady in the crowd was really itching to say something. And I said, you wanted to say something? She said, I'm related to him. And I said, did I lie about any of this? She said, nope, you were accurate. So it was really neat to have that connection. We have an alternative school that services 8th through 12th graders, and we've talked about this in the past. But one of the really fun events that they do every year is their cardboard regatta. Every grade level builds a boat out of cardboard and then is charged with sailing it from one end of Blue Heron Pond to the other. And they time it, who can get there the fastest. There's themes. The staff actually puts a boat in the race. It is a blast. I would never get in one of those boats, but it's fun to go and cheer on all the kids and staff participating. But that was an image from last year, and that was the junior class. They've been formidable, and I think they've won most years. And so we'll see how they do this year as seniors. Some people don't know that we're the only district that's allowed to have commencement as CMAC. There was a time that many districts had it there, but as CMAC has kind of risen in prominence in the concert venue that they're putting on, all the different concerts, they really had to scale back because that's the business they're actually in, is doing concerts. It's a business. But they've been really committed to Canandaigua, and they said, we will always be here for you to hold commencement. We're promising you this will happen. And so every year I kind of hold my breath to make sure we get the contract to have commencement there, and it just keeps coming through. And the reason I mention it is a lot of places, they have to take random dates to hold commencement at random places. And maybe it's not an ideal time, or maybe they're limited in the number of tickets, or maybe they're limited by the weather. None of that matters for us. The weather doesn't matter, then we don't have to limit tickets. Everyone can come and enjoy commencement and see their friends and family graduate. And it's really pretty fantastic. I mean, if you've been to the commencement, it is special. The whole shell fills pretty much. It's all cherry and gray, and the acoustics are amazing. It's just a really classy venue. Speaking of commencement, and I'm really kind of focusing on community partners a little bit here. We have CMAC, great community partners, the Sands family, all of them, great folks that support us. But during COVID, I remember there was a time where we were talking about commencement. What do you do? We weren't even allowed to be in school. We all had to wear masks. We couldn't be within 6 feet of each other. How on earth can we hold a commencement? And a lot of schools were doing drive-by commencements. And so basically you're in a car with your family, you pull up, you roll your window down, they give you the diploma, take a quick little selfie, and you drive off. Or you're on a stadium and chairs are 6 feet apart, everyone's wearing masks, and you can only have like 3 people there, and you're all spread out. And to me, the more I thought about it, the more it felt depressing. And these kids were reaching a milestone, and I didn't want it to be a depressing experience. And so as we grappled with what we're going to do, we saw an article from New Hampshire where this school had a ski mountain, and they graduated on it. And so I thought, what a great idea, we have a ski mountain. I reached out to the Fuller family who owned Bristol Mountain and asked them, I pitched this idea, and it was immediate. Yep, we're doing it, let's do this. And so the way it worked was the kids arrived at their time slot, they rode up with their family, we had pomp and circumstance playing throughout the mountain, we built a stage on the mountain top, they walked across the stage, they got their diploma, there was an scenic overlook where they took a picture with their diploma with the mountains and the Canandaigua Lake behind them, and then they rode back down. And the smiles you see in this picture were, everyone was that way. They were just having a blast, they loved it. The family started asking that this should be our new tradition, this is what we should do all the time. Dan and his crew were integral on it with making sure we have the technology, the internet connection, and I can tell you, from his perspective and mine, we didn't want that to be the whole thing, because it was a lot of work to make it happen, and listening to Pomp and Circumstance for 8 straight hours on loop was really painful. So while it was fun for families and kids, and we were so thankful for the Fullers to do this for us 2 consecutive years and refuse to take any money for it, was pretty remarkable. And so we were really lucky to have that experience for those kids and those families during difficult times. Again, staying community focused. Our music programs perform in the community a lot. They go to a lot of the assisted living homes. This, I think, is at Ferris Hills. They go to Ashton Place. They go all over the community, the Ewing Center, and they just perform for the residents. But it's enjoyable for the residents, but it's equally as enjoyable for our students to be there and to perform and to see the joy they're bringing to the residents. And so that's always a lot of fun, and it's happening pretty regularly throughout the community. Speaking of music, we have a fantastic music program. I've bragged about them many times, and I'm going to continue to for a little bit here. This is Jillian and Ben, some of our most talented musicians that we have. They were adjudicated by independent judges looking at their performance, scoring them. They scored so high that they made the all New York State kind of level of score. And so they are 2 of the best musicians in the state of New York right here out of Canandaigua, and they're wonderful kids to boot. And then Walter Marshall is also in our music program. He's an IB graduate. He's just such a fascinating student. He had this idea that he wanted to write a piece for our wind ensemble. And so our curriculum area lead teacher, Greg Kane, worked with him a little bit, and then connected him with retired music teacher Tom Davis to work on this piece that he was writing and really passionate about. Walter, by the way, I did say he's going to be an IB diploma student, so really one of our brightest. He wants to be a music teacher on top of that, which is great. And so connected with Tom Davis, he continued to write, refine, tweak. The finished product was so incredibly impressive. They actually made the Music Educators Wind Ensemble of Eastman School of Music aware of it. They heard it. They were so impressed with it that they've been performing it. And so this is a group of musicians out of Eastman that are performing his piece that he wrote as a senior for us. Really impressive stuff. 25% of our students at the academy are involved in some ensemble. They have a seat in one of our ensembles. And then in the middle school and elementary school, almost half are in a seat in an ensemble. That is not typical. Like I said, we have some fantastic teachers in that program, and they really are people that our kids want to be around, learn from. They bring energy, positivity, and enthusiasm every single day. Speaking more of music, our teachers were thinking, they kept running into students at the high school that were saying, I wish I had learned an instrument, I wish I had taken a music class, but I didn't, and I'm already in high school, it's too late. And so as they started thinking about that, they said, no, it's not too late. We're gonna create a new music class. This music class is for kids that have never done it before and they're at the high school. And so we're gonna teach you how to play instruments. And it's called Modern Band, and it is wildly popular. We have a lot of kids taking it that have never taken an instrument before. Some of them progress so quickly at their instrument, they are actually performing with their ensembles in concerts, which is pretty special. We love that they had that idea. All of our UPK students have mindfulness lessons. They are taught how to, what we're seeing out of students that are coming to us now as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, is they're having a more challenging time self-regulating, keeping themselves in a position where they can be attentive and learn. And so, Matt, can you check, or Brian, can you check? Someone might be trying to get in. I saw them walk by a couple times. So Ruthie Van Gorder is trained OT by trade. She teaches yoga. She's a trained mindfulness teacher as well. And so she works with all of our UPK students on, calming the body, calming the mind, and being attentive and focused and in the moment. And this classroom actually is Miss Consul's classroom. It's a TK program, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I happened to be in this class, and I told her that this picture is part of the presentation. And she said, I can't tell you the difference it makes for those students when she's visited and to work on some of the terminology and things that she's teaching them. They really have come so far throughout the course of the year in their ability to be attentive and under control. And so it was really fun. TK program, by the way, is a new program we just added called Transitional Kindergarten. It's for students who are not yet, they started school a little early. There were 4, and they started school, and then they're still young compared to the cohort moving forward, and they're struggling a little bit academically and maybe being attentive. And so we offer it to our students and families. We have this transitional K program that gives them another year to prepare them for kindergarten. And so it's not anything that's forced. Families need, opt into it, and it is overwhelmingly successful for families and students and staff alike. So we're really proud of that as well. Matt mentioned free Gemini courses for all students. This is for all kids in our BOCES at least, if not statewide, if they're taking advantage of this. So kids can take college credits taught by our teachers at the academy, and it's transferable for college. And so there used to be a fee that people had to pay, but not any longer. It's completely free, and we get reimbursed, as Matt had discussed. And so we're seeing way more kids take advantage of this, and I've shared in my previous presentations, and this was before it was free. There was a little fee when my older 2 went through, but my son is actually graduating this Saturday 1 year early from Nazareth. And so because he took advantage of so many things when he was in high school, that's a lot of money in savings, and he's going to go back for his 4th year and get his master's. But that's available to everybody. In fact, my daughter, his twin sister, could graduate a semester early, but she really loves college and is not in a rush. So I'm okay with that as well. But this actually picture comes from, this was we called it, I think they called it the Great Academic Race, kind of modeled after the Great Race. And so what it was is kids formed teams, and there were academic challenges all over the building at the academy. About 100 kids signed up to do this after school when they could have been home. And they stayed after school, and it was so fun seeing them run all over the building to go to their next place, to get their challenge, to solve it, and then go to the next one. And there was a finish line and bragging rights on the line. It was a really fun experience. That was brand new this year. Miriam Tricomi, she is a student of ours that is on the National Advisory Council for Work to Be Well. It's a council that's really focused on mental health and taking away the stigma of mental health and supporting students that are struggling with mental health. She's one of 42 students in the entire country, including Puerto Rico, that were selected to be on this committee. She presented at a board meeting recently and was amazing. So we're really proud of Miriam and all the work she's doing. And then Lindsay Latran, I shared this before, she's a Bezos Scholar. She's one of 17 students in the United States and Africa selected into this program. And she was charged with leading a change in our community. And her change was she wanted to create leadership opportunities for middle school students, knowing that if they develop their leadership skills and their confidence, great things were ahead for them. And so she has that up and running entirely right now, which is great. Our primary elementary school has a fish club, and this is for families to opt to do it. We have a number of children who are living in homes where their parents are separated, and that's difficult for kids to kind of grasp and understand. And so families have reached out and said, is there something we can do to support those children? And so we have this club that's available for them where they can process the emotions and the feelings and feel supported and make sure they're loved and they know that. And so it's a great club. We also have reading buddies where the elementary kids come down and read to the primary school kids. It's a pretty regular occurrence in those buildings. The primary school kids really look up to those elementary school kids, so it's great to see that happening all the time. We have a really good strength and conditioning program. If you go into our weight room at the academy, you're likely to see, for years now, literally like 100 kids in there lifting and working out. And we have teachers and coaches that are trained strength and conditioning coaches. And so it's free. But if you were to send your own child to do this privately, it is expensive. We offer it for free. But what we noticed is of those 100 kids that are in there regularly lifting, it's all boys. It's open to girls and boys, but the girls just weren't comfortable with it. And so we came up with let's start a girls' strength and conditioning program. And so we started that last summer. This is actually Tab Scott, one of our English teachers in the academy, who also is a college athlete and is big into strength and conditioning. She averages like 40 to 60 girls now doing that. And so it's really great that they started that and they saw the need, and it will continue. Dave Ducharme was a New York State Coach of the Year for tennis. He had a lot of success. He just retired, but very deserving. Had a lot of success over 20 plus years of coaching tennis for us. Of all of our athletic teams, 87% of them carried a grade point average of 90 and higher. And so because of that, New York State Public High School Athletic Association named Canandaigua a School of Excellence because our students perform in the classroom and on the field of competition. These are 4 of our swimmers, and you see they're holding instruments because they just finished playing the national anthem before their meet and then swam and competed and did very well because they were a good team as well. Our boys lacrosse team made it to the state championship for the 2nd time in 4 seasons. This is an image from the sectional championship game at Hobart and William Smith against Victor. Really great comeback victory for Canandaigua, which is always fun against Victor when that happens. Bryant Sabin was named the Section 5 Unified Athlete of the Year. And if you've ever been to a unified athletic game, they are amazing. We have basketball and bowling unified sports, and it partners our special education students with our regular education students, and they compete in an actual contest, and it is so fun. Everyone is so positive and supportive, even across teams. Bryant, as you can see, is smiling there. He lights up a room everywhere he walks into, and so he was very deserving of that, and he even got to be interviewed on the news. And he spoke at board meetings before too, and just a great kid. He graduated last year, so this happened after the presentation last year, so I wanted to make note of it. He is attending Nazareth right now and doing great. Caroline Chapman is our athletic director of 5 or 6 years now. And this is pretty rare. She was named the Section 5 Athletic Director of the Year already, 5 or 6 years in. That's to happen so quickly is pretty amazing. She works incredibly hard, puts in a lot of hours, and cares deeply for our school and the program. And this is her in the middle with some of her colleagues surrounding her when she was awarded the Section 5 Athletic Director of the Year. We've been on the news for a number of things, and this is just a couple of them. Coach Fonda, many of you are familiar with his story and what great things he's doing with our programs. We have a wonderful transportation program team. Most transportation teams are running shorthanded and barely able to get it done. We are as well. You know, it's hard to find drivers, but somehow they come through time and time again. And the department is just always so upbeat and positive and supportive. Our kindergartners got to name a new snowplow. They called it the Powerful Snow Cloud, I think is what they came up with. So that's them posing in front of their named snowplow. We had a student that was a junior meteorologist. And then down here on the right is Jamie Anderson's classroom. They raised brown trout, and then they released them. And so that's something, one of the few, many things he does with his kids all the time. All of our kids, 100% of the students get enrichment at our primary elementary school now. We've revamped it entirely. It used to be a time where if a student showed that they were excelling academically, they were recommended for enrichment. It's not the way it works anymore. All of our kids get enrichment experience in the primary elementary school, and if they excel at those enrichment experiences, there's another tier that they can get more, and if they excel at those, they can get even more. And so that's something that our primary elementary school team has worked hard to develop to make sure everybody has this opportunity, which is really fantastic. And then the last two things I'll mention is CashFest looks at public finance, and we have again been named as making really fiscally responsible decisions and being good stewards of public finance. And so we were a leader in public finance in 2025. I think that's like the 3rd or 4th straight year. And so really kudos to Matt and his department. And then the last thing I want to share is this came to me unsolicited from the ECRA group. They looked at how Canandaigua City School performs in the state of New York. And it showed that for our elementary and middle school, we performed in the 65th percentile academically. At the high school, we're performing in the 79th percentile academically. So we're performing at the top academically in New York State. Yet our I'll say this right, per pupil expenditures are 14th percentile. So we're comparatively around the state spending much less per pupil, but we're outperforming many more. And so that's really something to be proud of as well. And so that was kind of my recap of the year in review. And then Matt just did the budget. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen because it's hard to manage everything without that. Or, yeah, I have to do that. You can't do that, can you?
Stop your share? No.
I don't think.
No, I can't do
No,
that.
okay, I'll do that. All right.
Jenny, do you have a presentation to plug in?
Yeah.
You wanna see, they can work that out, how to plug that in for you?
So just making sure I didn't miss anything in the chat.
No, I'm taking care of that, but Katie's bringing over her
Okay, you thumb drive?
presentation for the library.
I'm gonna screw it up. Probably, because you attached a lot of different things. And for people that don't, know, maybe this is your first time at this meeting, I usually sit at the computer and try to manage any chat questions or people joining
Yeah.
or leaving,
Yeah,
right? You're
Yeah.
good with that? Okay.
yeah,
Well,
well,
Jamie, played by Jen.
just push the buttons.
My eyesight's not great, so it's hard for me to see.
While we're waiting for, the library presentation to begin, just, if anyone's planning to stay for the end of the meeting for the PTSA portion, I would like to get accurate attendance for that portion. So, I believe, yeah, I knew all the names on this side of the room were already here, so if we could pass down from there, I got Densley family, and just print your name on there if you're gonna stay for that portion of the meeting.
And Jen, and
Yeah.
while they're getting that set up, I know we have some people here that might
Yeah.
have questions for
For the budget.
for our presentation.
I
We're
think
happy to field those.
absolutely.
Yep.
So I was wondering for the program part, there's like the increase of 3.3 million, and you listed off what was included in the program. What part of that program do you think is the highest increase? Like where?
Largest driver, yeah, so.
Yeah.
Health insurance is the largest driver of
So
the
that's-
budget
okay.
currently in all aspects, and definitely in the program, and then salaries would be the next largest
Okay.
driver.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep.
There was one slide that was kind of up there quickly, I think it was about the third or fourth one in, and it showed the percentage increases by, program and.
Administration program and, yep.
Are you able to go back to that? So that
Yeah,
we
I
can-
probably shouldn't have jumped off of it so quick, should I?
Well,
Let me pull that back up, hold on, 1 second. Feel that flip, not bad.
Well done.
Wow. Wow, I
Bravo.
did not expect for it to go that quickly.
If you can do the per pupil percentage.
Right there.
I think you got this.
Yeah.
yeah, percent total.
So you can see the percent, this is
Yeah.
this current year, this is next year. So,
Do you happen to know the per pupil rate per, do you happen to know that amount?
I don't have that number off the top of my head.
Okay.
if you Google it, New York State Report Card has it. If you Google the New York State Report Card, I could ballpark it, but I don't wanna give you the inaccurate information. But if you just Google it, it's on there.
Okay.
And that Medicare stipulation, that 3-year hold, was that the last 3 years, and then this is our first year?
No, that was, so this past year was the 10%, no greater than 10% increase. And the previous 3 years were, the whole.
Held.
Yeah.
So from 10, that delta's now like 70%.
Yeah, so, as the Medicare rates increase community-wide, and as the Medicare market completely changed, and, part of the, I can't remember which federal bill, really changed, how Medicare reimbursement is done. We were locked in at extremely low rates. And so our rates stayed at a really low rate, while the rest of the community continued increasing, and now we've got to move up closer to those rates. So really, over that 4-year period, we saved multiple millions of dollars, and we got a great deal. Now we're going back up towards the community rates on this, and our insurance carrier is losing money annually on that, significant money.
Anything else?
The 2 electric buses that we bought and went
Oh.
back, where does the
So-
money go back?
Let me clarify that.
Okay, sorry.
Danny asked the 2 electric buses that we bought and went back. If you're a parent here, you saw that I released a clarifying, message around that. There was an article about it that, maybe didn't just tell the whole entire story. So we received the 2 buses. It usually takes around 10 months. It doesn't matter if it's electric or diesel for a bus to come in once we order them. So they came in approximately 10 months later. It's not terribly unusual when we have them, there needs to be recalibration done, even with the diesel bus. Because they're built by the manufacturer, then shipped to the supplier, then from the supplier to us. And so there's a lot of transferring happening. So they came in, they were having some issues with the charging. The supplier took them, worked on them, had them back to us in a week or 2, and we've had them on the road, I think, for 3 or 4 weeks now. They're working well for us, but we also recognize it's not winter. And that's where their performance really tails off from what other districts are experiencing. We do use a different manufacturer than Naples, so you've seen some articles around Naples' experience. We're curious what our buses will do. We don't know. And we don't really want to talk too definitively about it until we have the data to show what's our mileage, what's our charging rates, all of these things. How are they performing? Can they maintain heat on a 15-degree day where we can send them out on the road? What I can tell you right now, in the spring, when we've been using them, our bus that goes in the city usually can go 2 days without being charged, without having to be recharged. That's the morning and afternoon, primary, elementary, and middle and high school run. The one we send out to the country needs to be recharged midday. So when it goes out, it comes back around 60% charged, and we have to charge it midday it gets fully charged by 2.5 hours, and it's ready for the afternoon run. But they're performing well for us, comparatively, but we purposely didn't put 2 more electric buses on this ballot because we didn't receive our previous 2 and have any experience with them whatsoever. And so we didn't feel comfortable going to the community and saying we want 2 more when we don't even know how these 2 that we ordered performs. And so this will give us a full year to kind of get experience. Maybe this law gets kicked down the road 5 years, which this is the first time we're hearing that actually might happen. And we've been advocating, I've been advocating relentlessly for this, that it needs to get delayed. The infrastructure's not there, the cost is extreme. And there's really little support to manage all that from the state. But they're back, they're on the road, and they're performing well for us at the moment.
What's the lifespan of an electric bus versus a diesel? Do we not know?
Hard to say, we don't, they're not out there enough. A diesel bus we can typically have on the road 8 years, give or take. Matt, wouldn't you agree that 8?
Yeah,
Maybe.
typically that's where you start seeing the rust and the body issues with the buses.
So for people that maybe didn't hear that, they rust out, and we put a lot of miles on them. In our climate with the road salt, and they just, once it flips the corner where you're spending a lot of money repairing them, we're better off auctioning them off and buying new, because we do get state aid on buses that it makes it manageable, and we have, like Matt talked about, reserve fund for that. But we try to keep them on the road as long as we can safely keep them on the road. Go ahead.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Regarding enrollment,
Mhm.
and I don't know, I took the performance one and added it up, and it had 3,025 students. And then this one's saying 3,200, but 70, I guess, go elsewhere, so 3,130 students.
Mhm.
So if the number that's in the building is 3,130 students, divide that into the total budget, and that came a little over $31,000 per student. Are these? I mean, how
No,
many-
because there's a few things that's hard to calculate. So the budget numbers of 3,200 students is the accurate number of students. We have students that are placed out of district, and so forth and so on. But we have, I hesitate to say, but we have students that their individual cost is in excess of $300,000, no?
That's a
200 individual students that are that, their individual cost for programming is over $200,000. So, special ed services can skew that number and make it hard to explain. But
But on average, it would be, if you just, on average, it'd be that 31,000 or so.
I
But when
don't,
you figure in special education, yeah, that's gonna skew.
yeah, I don't think on average it's that high. I was just Googling it, I can keep looking, but I don't think it's, I think that's quite a bit more than what it actually is per pupil.
Okay.
you know.
Well, whatever the enrollment is divided by the total budget, that's the number. I mean, the average number.
So our overall budget, Matt, and correct me if I'm wrong, when they look at per pupil expenditures, do they include things like transportation? Do they include,
Depends on the calculation, so
Right.
you can do it as you're saying, so the entire budget divided by the number of students and come up with a number. They, a lot of times will do it without any debt service, because, you know, schools starting a capital project or in the middle of a capital project versus one that's ending, that can skew that. You could do it by removing special education, but yeah, overall, you know, I think, you know, you're using the 97 million divided by the 3,200 and coming up with a number. Yeah, I think there's a reasonable argument for that to be the number, and I think there's multiple ways.
And then when you take out transportation and all that, it comes around at 24,000.
Correct.
yeah,
So,
it's more in that lower 20,000 is what the state reports from what I can see, but I think there's exclusions is I guess what I'm trying to say, and Matt said it better than I
So
did.
you had mentioned that you have a few students that are $200,000 and everything, it's wonderful that services are there. So when you mentioned that, so how many, special education students do we have enrolled in the programs?
Oh geez, in programs outside of district or programs like special ed programs?
Just in general.
It's about it ranges 16 to 18% of our students receive special education programs,
Okay. All right.
which is about the state average.
So that's about, what, 20 to 25% of the total school budget?
I don't know if I'm comfortable saying that
Around that
definitively.
or something?
Yeah, so, yeah, I wouldn't be able to give a number, you know, without going, you know, it would take me, you know, time to go through. You know, we have our out-of-district placements are a significant portion of our budget, both our private, you know, placements, our BOCES placements, and then in district, we have, you know, 811, 1211 classrooms, 15-to-1 classrooms. So, you know, to go through and figure out all those expenses, you know, I'd have to actually sit down and, you know, calculate.
Yeah.
Just let it out.
I mean, great services, I'm not.
No, they are,
I'm
yeah.
just trying to understand the budget piece.
Yeah.
And then one other thing, and I don't mean to be, in looking at all the healthcare services, that are in the budget with the positions, being from the former healthcare industry, I'm looking at that and thinking, we just established a primary care, clinic in the school.
Yeah, there are some schools in the country that are doing that
Yeah.
now. Yep, there are. I don't know if we're large enough to do it. We'd have to almost do like combined schools, like Osvict or Red Jet, you know, to make it worth it maybe, but then, I did start looking at that. There are schools around the country that are starting it.
Yeah,
Yep.
'cause it'd save taxpayers a lot of money.
I think the issue, well,
'Cause the
part of it is
benefits
though, if they need a surgery, you know, it's a primary care physician, but if you need
Right.
surgery or specialized services, you still have to go outside for that, and that's, you know, you have to be a big city school district to employ, you know, all of those special areas is what I'm initially finding. I honestly just started looking into this in March when I learned that other districts in the country are doing it. But
Yeah.
point taken, it's something you know, I'd like to look at a little bit.
Thanks.
Yeah. Good? All right, I'm gonna stop sharing this. Jenny, this,
You're gonna keep sharing, because.
well, I have to switch and select something different. Yeah.
They've left you with 5 minutes, Jenny.
Seriously?
No. But you know, we can shake, rattle, and roll. Okay. It's still a little night.
I know, well, there is a Sabres playoff game tonight.
I mean, it's like, yeah.
This is not working, so just use the.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. Shake, rattle, and roll.
All right, good evening, everyone. You might know me as a fellow PTSA member. I am also a parent of 2 kids in the school district. One is a 9th grader, one's a 6th grader. And then I'm also the executive director of Wood Library. So I'm pleased to be here to present on the library, similar to what Jamie did, give you a Wood Library update, I also have with me Rachel Brill, Children's Services Librarian, Alexis Lawrence, Adult Services Librarian, and Katie Smith, Teen Services Librarian. So we won't keep you here too long, I promise. So library stats were up in 2025 pretty much across the board. Very pleased to report everything from checkouts, card holders, program attendees, digital downloads. I think the only thing that didn't increase were Wi-Fi sessions, which I'm not too concerned about compared to everything else. I'm very pleased. I do want to point out too that we were open 3,382 hours last year. We are open 7 days a week, and we are the one library in the entire OWL library system that's open the most number of hours. Oh, and I do also want to point out, we're very lucky to have with us today Katie Smith, the New York State Public Librarian of the Year last year. She did receive an award. She was nominated by her teens and her coworkers. So we had a very nice celebration in Albany at the state conference. And then below that picture, we did receive an award for the Reading Garden. So it was a NYLA, New York Library Association Building Award. So it was a Wood Library evening. Some essential services you might not be aware of. We do have specialized kits. So we have wellness kits, memory kits if you know anyone that's struggling with dementia. Those kits will help you can have conversations with that person, jog their memory. We have fishing poles, we have Wi-Fi hotspots, so if you're going on vacation or maybe you know of a family that doesn't have internet at home, we do have that available for borrowing. We have outdoor adventure backpacks, outdoor games, a lot of things at the library, so we're not just books. We have 2 notary publics now on staff, one by themselves. They were so popular that we had to add a second one. Surprisingly, people just come to the library, get things notarized, and we're happy to help them. We consider ourselves a community resource, so we have tax forms, COVID test kits, as well as something we call comfort bags for those individuals who might be struggling in our community. These bags are filled with anything from like knit hats to solar blankets, snacks, toiletry items. So people do come in and seek out what we have in the basket. Books by mail, we plan to start that in a couple months. Originally, the OWL library system was doing that. However, they discontinued that service and they passed it along to member libraries, and we were pleased to pick that up. So it's exactly what it sounds like. If you know of any homebound individuals, they can have books delivered to them via the mail, and then they'll receive a self-addressed stamped envelope to mail those items back. We have very important places passes, so if you're going anywhere this summer, you want to go to a museum, a historic site, or maybe a state park, you can save some money by checking out a discounted pass at the library. As I said, we have Empire passes, we have passes to Rochester Museum and Science Center, Genesee Country Village. I think we even have Canandaigua sailboarding. You get a discount on kayak rentals. AARP taxes are still very popular. As you can see, we had 652 people come and get their taxes done for free at the library. I will have the librarians talk about improved spaces. And in regards to human connections, we're very proud of the fact that people can walk into the building and speak to someone and hopefully get help right away. We are an open public building. We get a lot of different types of requests. Sometimes people just don't know where to go and they automatically think of the library. We are a very welcoming place. One story I do want to share with you, we did have one young man who was clearly unhoused. He would come into the building every day, sit in the back corner, was never a problem. Oh, sorry, this thing is extremely sensitive. He would sit in the back corner and he would be there from the moment the library opened to when we closed at night, and he would be charging his phone, using our Wi-Fi. And one day at the public computers, I was helping another library patron look for a discontinued motorcycle part. So these are the types of questions that we get that come in. I had the hardest time trying to help this patron. mostly because this motorcycle part was discontinued, and of course, every site you go to, it's sold out. Well, this gentleman overheard the conversation. He said, I used to work in this type of business. Are you okay if I just help him out? I said, sure. So they ended up finding the motorcycle part. I did end up having a conversation with him because I was able to give him some information about the Salvation Army and the services they offered, which include shower services, washer and dryer services. They have extra clothing there. So I wanted to share that with him. He disappeared for a while, and then he came back, and then we discovered that he had a job, and we were so excited for him. And it's one of those feel-good stories. You never know, when you're helping someone, how far it gets them. And I don't want to take credit, because he did it himself. But it was wonderful to hear that someone like that, where you could see the potential, and certainly was able to then secure a job and move forward in life. Okay, so now I'll have Rachel talk to you about children's programs. You're gonna wanna stand back from the microphone.
Hello.
Hello, Rachel.
I'm going to be brief because it's late and I don't want to hold you guys up. So we're gonna just not talk about every single picture on there. What I'm gonna say is I do on average about 30 programs a month for ages birth through 5th grade. So I've got yoga programs. We were talking about mindfulness. We do that in the library too. We've got some sewing programs that are taught by one of the parents that I met through Storytime. And I found out she teaches sewing lessons, and I said, please teach them at the library. And she said, okay. And now she's teaching them at 4 different libraries, but we got her first. We've got popular like pop culture programs. So we've got Legos, we've got Pokemon. Pokemon's brand new, very exciting. I used to give them things to do, and then they just wanted to trade cards, so now it's just trading cards. I still provide stuff if they want to do extra stuff, but they don't. We've got live animals that come and visit the library. We've got music that comes to the library in a couple of different formats for a couple of different age groups. And then we do some weird little one-offs. So I have pictured there the T-Rex tea party from last year. We just did it again this year for Mother's Day because dinosaurs were mothers too. This is very important, and as you can see from the grinning faces, it was a blast. Also try to partner with the town, brought in the fire trucks, etc., etc. And then, obviously, we're a library. We do a lot of cool stuff. We also do books. So trying to make sure that the collection is really responsive to the needs. I've noticed that kids really want to read about disabilities right now. Like that is my most popular type of realistic fiction. They're like, tell me about a kid with, something weird going on. Something that I don't personally experience. And I say, would you like autism? Would you like cerebral palsy? Would you like deafness? And they're like, yes. So I've been trying to make sure that the collection's really responsive to their needs. And then you can see in the lower corner, the quick reads. I've been trying to bring the way the collection is organized more in line with what they're used to from the school libraries. So I got the idea for quick reads from Melanie Dederoff in the elementary school library. We just finished that one, but it's been a long progress thing. And we try to highlight books in all of the programs that I can fit books into. So yeah, books, being prompt, teens.
Hello everyone, I'm Katie Smith, the Teen Services Librarian. You all heard how outstanding the teens are in this community. I will say some of our younger friends are really just giving us a run for our money, but they're really just finding, their place in the world, is what we tell ourselves. But we do love seeing them. You guys are probably gonna recognize a lot of the faces in some of these pictures. I have been very fortunate. I just celebrated my 10th anniversary at Wood Library last year. And so down here in this bottom corner, it's really too small, but I have 2 friends standing on the front step of our library. And those were my 2 seniors that graduated out of my teen advisory board this past school year. And our teen advisory board is a group of kids. They earn a community service hour for attending. They help come up with the programs that we're planning at the library, so I'm not cringe. But they have a great time. It's a really great group of kids. And a goal I've had for many years, I didn't really know how to get it together, but last year was the first year we handed out our scholarship. It is the John Machago Scholarship for Volunteerism. John is a former middle school teacher. And you can see down here in this other bottom corner picture, there's a group of kids playing the board games. And since his retirement, he has been at Wood Library doing our board gaming groups for the teens. He's doing a creative writing program for the teens. He does the RPG groups, so like Dungeons and Dragons, and there's all these different ones that I don't really know, but I love to go in and see what they're doing, because it's like a little mini like episode of live theater every time. But last year was the first year we were able to give this scholarship out. It is for any candidate with senior who has volunteered over 30 hours at Wood Library during their high school career. And my friend Adrian got it right down here in the corner, and that was really, really special. Also, that big picture right above it, since I celebrated my 10th anniversary, we had a Tab family reunion. So I had kids who I'd had when I first started, my current kids, they all came back. Some of them were the same age as me when I started, but we don't need to talk about it. And we just had a great time, and it was really fun for the younger kids to realize that when you become an adult, like they don't view me as adult. They tell me I'm just a big teen, and I'm like, you're all bigger than me, so that's fine. But they can see that growing up's not necessarily scary, and like hear what they're doing and how the different avenues they've taken from like this spot that they're all in right now. But we do a bunch of other fun things all year. We do movies and murder mysteries and game nights. We have authors come visit. We do cooking programs. And I just want to highlight down here in the bottom corner, that group picture is our teen theater program. So every summer it'll be 27 years this summer, we have a group of writers that come in, teen writers, and they write an original play in 2 weeks. And then the next 2 weeks, we have a group of actors come in, and they act out the show, and it's always incredible. It's always a great time. I'm feeling very old hearing how old your kids are now. But yeah, it's really a lot of fun. Also, if anyone is a high school parent, I am looking for some musician volunteers this summer. Feel free to talk to me after. Oh, and this was our renovation we did in our teen room. It was a couple years in the making, so a few of the kids in that picture, they picked out all the paint. We had to remove all the shelves from the wall. That was exciting. They got to pick out the new furniture. Rotary got us our table there in the middle of the room. And there's Legos and Magnetiles and coloring sheets and craft paper, and it's really been a lot of fun watching them kind of like move into the room and make it their own. And now I'll pass it off to Alexis.
The most fear I had is stepping up to this podium and not being both tall enough.
You can stand next to it.
Wonderful.
Just pull the mic towards you.
Oh man, I just made it.
Oh, you did great.
I love it. Okay. No pointers today. All right. So I'm the adult services librarian, and I do anywhere from 18 to seniors. And with that, we do multiple programs from crafts to senior computer classes to wellness programs like yoga, Zumba, and cooking classes, which you see up at the top corner. One of the crafts that we did was a gnome program, and my adults who loved the cooking class also loved the craft classes, so they came to both. And they lined up their gnomes as a little family because they got so well acquainted that they attended everything together as a group. And then, as Katie mentioned, we have improved spaces. So when she got to spruce up her space, I got to spruce up mine. And with that, I created a space for early adults, which is kind of like the teens who kind of transition from being teens, and they're in that weird phase where they don't really feel comfortable being in the adult space, but they still want somewhere to go. So I created this little corner that has like early adult books, college and career books. It has board games, graphic novels, and so there's like comfy chairs. There's like a study table in there because they still love those high top tables that were in the teen room. And so you see a lot more 18 to 30-year-olds in there using the space now. It's a lot busier. Board games get played on the tables, on the gaming table down there. And then we started a seat library. It was a grant sponsored by Thompson Health. So this is a picture of our seed swap. It's done every year now. People get together, they swap seeds, and then they send me pictures of the lovely stuff they planted in their garden, whether it worked, it didn't work, if the garden got washed out by the rain. And then every year, because I got the early adults, they host a murder mystery to kind of kick off our summer. So we do a summer murder mystery program. This year is pirate themed. Everyone's gonna get dressed up. Someone's gonna die. Hopefully it's not me. I've died twice past years. We do a chess night at Rio's as a community partner. So they have chess masters come out and teach how to play chess. They play with them as well, so everyone has a great time. We do gardening classes. Every year we have a arcade weekend for 4 days straight, and people can play free arcade games with families. Some adults play all weekend long. Some staff play all weekend long. But it's a fun thing held by community. So that is adults. Lots of crafts, lots of lectures.
Okay, so we came up with our new strategic plan for this year. This was all through a process of community survey, focus groups. We really wanted to get a sense from the community what they wanted to see from their local library. So I won't touch upon all of this, but there are 2 points that I do want to make. One thing that was pretty evident when I was standing there observing the focus groups, people really view the library as a community hub, a place that is welcoming, a neutral space where people can have more difficult conversations, have civil conversations, because I think we've kind of lost that art to some degree. So we really talked about how we can incorporate that into our strategic plan and trying to have more of those difficult conversations at the library and try to see eye to eye, or at least understand the other person's point of view. And then also, a lot of people do not realize this, but loneliness is a public health crisis. Actually, the more isolated you are, the more likely you are to develop dementia, heart disease, stroke. So we see the library as a place to help solve that crisis to some degree. And I guess one other thing I do want to point out too is kind of related to the story I told you before about the young man. We are not social workers at the library. We wish we were, but we are not. So we are working with Department of Social Services, Ontario County Mental Health, Ontario Cares, to have drop-in hours for individuals so that when they come into the library, we can help them to the best of our ability, but then pass them along to someone that's having open office hours there, so they can tell them the resources and help them from beginning to end. So our income for 2026 is $1,361,666. Majority of that comes from community-based funding, which is our fancy word for tax levy. And that is our stable source of funding. Everything else on this list is not reliable. We try our best, of course. We do take some money from our endowment. We can take up to 5% of the principal of the 20-year rolling quarter average market value of the fund. We have donations and fundraisers. You probably have seen the annual fund drive, mini golf, Pursapalooza, book sales. So I swear once mini golf is over, I'm turning around and already talking about Pursapalooza. So it's nonstop at the library. We do receive some New York State aid. It has remained flat for several years now. The librarians are always actively looking for grants that would fit their programs. And of course, we do still charge some fines and fees for various items. We are a fine-free library, so we do not charge fines on books anymore. However, there's certain items we want to have returned, such as our Wi-Fi hotspots, fishing poles, our special kits, things like that. And then our budgeted expenses, of course, match our income, salaries and wages, and you can probably throw personnel benefits into that. That makes up the majority of our expenses. We are a public service organization, as I said. People walk through our doors for many different reasons, and that's what we're there for. And then the rest would be programs and operations, followed by collections and building maintenance. Oop. Oh, I did click the right one, okay. Then our projected 2027 budget is $1,401,154. That is actually a 2.9% increase over 2026. Why is that happening? Well, it's because of increased use and cost of our digital content. To give you an idea, in 2019, so this was before COVID, if you can imagine a time before COVID, we had about 40,000 downloads for our digital content. In 2025, it went up to 75,000. So people really got used to the ebooks, the audiobooks, which is great, but there are increased costs associated with that. We do have to replace a few computers in next year. We have 10 computers, a mix of public and staff. We have a computer replacement plan, and of course, our library system will not continue to support certain computers, understandably so. And then we have our Wi-Fi hotspot program, which is, not inexpensive. And then, not very exciting, but cost of living and minimum wage increases. So I did want to show this, and at each one of my presentations, I have been asking, who here has read the correspondent? Hey, well, Rachel, you don't count.
It's on my two.
Okay, all right.
I got it through Libby
How long did you wait for that?
as an audiobook. I think ended up at like 13 weeks.
Pretty fast, honestly.
Well, because so you have the trick of having your local OWL system library card, but also then your New York Public Library card.
Yeah.
And I think I ended up getting it faster through New York Public
Oh,
Library.
okay, well,
But I got one on hold for like 23 months, it's telling me right now.
wow. Well, okay. So you are a walking, breathing example of how popular our digital content is. And we're trying to keep up with it. So I wanted to show this graph. This shows the book prices for the correspondent, the consumer price and the library price. So if you, the consumer, were to go to Amazon and buy that book, you would actually pay more than the library. And that's because we have book vendors who sell us books in discount because we're buying them in bulk. However, if you were to go to Amazon and download the Kindle version of the same book, you'd be paying less than the library. If you were to go to Audible and download the audiobook, you would be paying less than the library. And that's because of publishers and their licensing agreements and how darn expensive it is. A lot of publishers have different types of agreements. So for example, you purchase an audiobook, a downloadable audiobook, it may be good only for a certain amount of circulations, or it just might expire after a certain amount of time. Now, if we had that same physical book sitting on the shelf, we may never have to replace it. Unless someone spilled coffee or you got a dog bite taken out of it, which does happen. But if that book is still popular and then that license has expired, we have to buy it again instead of buying maybe a newer book, for example. So a lot of people don't understand that. There's currently some advocacy efforts through our New York Library Association, working with our legislators to try to reduce the cost of these downloadable ebooks and audiobooks. So a lot of people don't understand that, so that's why I like to show the chart. Okay, so for our current levy, it's set at $1,027,564. So as Matt said earlier, we're looking at $93,359 increase for a total of $1,120,923. We'll continue to fundraise, as I mentioned, all those events are not going away. We'll stay busy, I promise you. So if approved, the library tax rate is projected to be 29.8 cents per thousand of assessed property value. I broke it out so you can kind of get a better sense as to what that would mean to you. So $3.75 for an $150,000 home, $5.62 for a $225,000 home, and then for a $300,000 home, $7.50. So this, if this were to pass, that would be applied to our 2027 budget. So as you know, the vote is next Tuesday. If it is approved, then it is, you'll see it in your school tax bill in October. The school collects it on our behalf, then hands over the money. And then we don't do anything with it until the following year because it's applied to the next year's operating budget. And also, if this were approved, it'd make up the community-based funding or the tax levy, whichever you want to call it, would make up 80% of the operating budget. I do want to be clear, though, that no tax levy money was used for any of our capital projects. That includes the reading garden. We have always raised that money on our own through grants, foundations, private donations. The board has always been very strict about not building or renovating anything until we have the money in hand. So I just wanted to make that known. Any type of improvements you see happening at the library is all either from our capital reserve fund or just through donations. And again, here's some pictures of, well, actually, here's Rachel outside doing an outdoor story time. Then you already saw that picture from the Rain Barrel Workshop with Ontario County. And you know, hopefully by now, all the details about the vote. Usually I follow you guys around. I haven't seen you at all this year yet. It's been really strange.
Any questions for the library?
Everyone wants to see that Sabres game.
So Jay, that would make sense, so your increase was like 96,000, and then I saw you raising 280,000 or something, so that's, the difference is what you fuel other.
Yes.
So it's not just the money you have coming up?
No.
That's awesome.
Well, I will say thank you so much to the budget presenters of the
Yeah,
evening.
well,
Thank you all for
thank you
being
all
here.
for staying here and
Oh,
being
goodness.
alert.
Well, some of us
Okay.
fake it really well, Jenny.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. Anyone who wants to is welcome to stay for the brief amount of PTSA work we're gonna be doing.